Well, hey guys, welcome to Star Wars on High. Thank you for stopping by. Welcome back to the Sunday chat. It's some time for Jimmy and I to pull together and talk about something in the community that's been trending, and there's nothing bigger right now than Kenobi. Nothing more discussed, nothing with more controversy than Kenobi. And today we are going to give a defense of Kenobi, at least at the halfway point. We'll make a part two as the show wraps and revisit these topics and see what's changed, what stayed right, what went wrong. So keep in mind, as we're talking today, we're looking at the first 3 episodes. And there are going to be 5 key topics we're going to discuss today. Number 1, Kenobi is soft. He's a pacifist. He's acting out of character. Number 2, it has ruined A New Hope and other pieces of canon. Number 3, Reva and the other Inquisitors. Number 4, Leia. And number 5 is the confrontation between Vader and Kenobi. So we will put timestamps down below if you want to skip to a certain section, but I highly encourage you to watch it all the way through because I'm sure I will say something in the Kenobi is soft section that I might reference in a later portion of various arguments. So I recommend you do, but if you don't have time, you want to skip ahead, feel free to go to those places. So that is what we're going to talk about today. As we intro in here, I do want to note, before I pass it over to Jimmy, right now we are in one of those moments where the fandom is kind of riled up, right? We're getting a lot of comments, Jimmy and I, that are extremely negative and positive, but we've definitely seen a spike in negativity over the last couple weeks. There's been a lot of various videos, very negative videos coming out. There's a lot of various negative threads on Twitter that are going out, and so we're starting to see that kind of rise up again. And our hope here, it's for you folks not enjoying Kenobi, we can maybe provide some responses for you guys to think about. And for the folks who are enjoying it, maybe this will help you articulate a little better to your friends and other ones you're having these conversations with why these certain items work the way they do. So with that being said, Jimmy, how are you doing tonight? Are you hearing some of the negativity around Kenobi?
I'm hearing it everywhere from online to at work. Like you said, we've been getting a fair amount of negative comments now, which I guess we're due for that. We were getting nothing but positivity up until this point. Thankfully, we've only had 2 comments that I can recall that tried to personally attack us and call us names, but I work in retail.
You're used to it.
I'm used to that, yeah. And before we just jump right into this, I think it's important to note that we are talking about the genuine criticisms that have come from this.
Yeah.
We're not trying to fight anybody or get verbally violent or however you want to phrase that. We just want to break it down and see if we can understand it. We're not pulling up comments and yelling at people. It's just what's going on.
Yeah. Well said, Jimmy. And one other thing I'll call out is I'm focused on the negative side. I'll take a step back here because the internet distorts reality a little bit. There's been a ton, I think, of positivity about Kenobi. I think far more positivity than negativity, but the negative fans are kind of coming out in full force. Review bombing Kenobi this week, really spamming comments hard. For example, there's a Vader video we talked about. I made it weeks and weeks ago where Vader was assembled for the first time in the trailer. I just made a video talking about how I love that scene and why I think it's so good. And I've had a lot of people in my comments today saying, well, the show's terrible, the show's bad. And one of the most recent comments I had is like, well, I'd love to see how many dislikes you got on this video. And I showed him, I have 5,700 likes and 67 dislikes, which tells me overwhelmingly people are enjoying the show. They're not taking the time to, spam the comments and tell us how horrible it is and all that. So sometimes I think the reality is often being under-announced because the dissenting group is being a lot more vocal with their opinion. So I think there's been a lot of positivity as well. I don't want to pretend like it's all negative because it's not. It's absolutely not. So.
And I think the thing about this is it's very psychological when you look at it in the way that while there is an overwhelming amount of positivity, the negativity is always going to stand out more. I will always remember negative comments more so often than I remember positive comments. Now, there are outliers on both sides.
Sure.
But, any event in your life, you're going to remember the negative times first and then the positives.
Yeah.
It's just like the way our brains are wired,
When you're working retail, if a customer thanks you, you'll forget it in 5 seconds. If a customer calls you an idiot, you'll remember it for a day or so at least.
And I'll tell everybody about it.
Exactly. Well said. Well said, Jimmy. Okay. Well, let's get rolling. Now, I want to preface this Kenobi a soft argument. I will say personally, this is the argument I've heard the least. So we're starting with one of the shorter arguments because not only have I heard it the least, I also think it's very easy to kind of explain. But we have heard it several times, and I can definitely show some comments. For me, this argument is very simple. The Kenobi we see in the show, I think through the dialogue, through the visuals, they have made it pretty clear, the showrunners, of what state Kenobi is in. Number one, he is on the run. When the show starts, he is 100% bury the lightsabers, undercover, not using the Force, trying to stay hidden, and keep his sole purpose of protecting Luke alive. He's not trying to be seen. When another Jedi approaches him for help, he says no. When Bail Organa approaches him, he says no. Because his life has been completely and utterly devastated. All his loved ones, his best friend, his brother, the person he mentored has completely turned and murdered all of the ones he loved. All of his way of life has been completely changed. He has no one to turn to outside of a few remaining allies. And he has had to live like that for 10 years. The show starts off with a flashback of the prequel era. And if you guys have, if you guys watch that and you watch Clone Wars, you know all of the impact of what Kenobi's gone through and how much weight is on him right now. And it's not even the least bit surprising that he would be in this mental state. He's a human, right? He is a Jedi. And I love the fact that they're showing this very low point in his life, because eventually when A New Hope comes, I think these next 3 episodes are going to set the stage for how Kenobi refound that hope and refound that passion. So, guys, 10 years is a long time. Think about who you were 10 years ago and what kind of events and what kind of moments would have damaged you or impacted you and how you've grown from them or changed. Or maybe some things, maybe 10 years ago you liked Star Wars, for example, and now due to some movies and some shows, your opinions completely changed. So I think it's completely reasonable and actually really, really accurate that the darkest 10 years of your life would cause you to go to places that you normally wouldn't go. And so Kenobi being a hermit and Kenobi being scared, yeah, it makes a ton of sense. And the show has kind of demonstrated why he would be that. And we're starting to see him have to come out of his shell. Jimmy, what do you think about this argument and how would you respond?
So I've seen the argument mainly talking about, how I know someone was upset that and when the first 2 episodes came out, he didn't use his lightsaber at all or the Force. I mean, he used it to catch Leia, but further to your point, he's not using the Force because it's easy to get detected that way. He's not using a lightsaber because everyone is afraid of the Empire. They may not be afraid of the Jedi specifically, on Tatooine, they were hiding one in that saloon, but if you bring out a lightsaber, someone that is going to be like, I could get in trouble because you're here, I'm going to notify the Empire. Also, I might get rewarded for it.
Yep.
You don't just want to give yourself away like that. And when you look at it, because I've gone through stuff like this, I can't even begin to comprehend what it would be like to be Obi-Wan and go through everything that he had. Losing Qui-Gon, losing Satine, losing Anakin, Padme, his entire army turning on him, all his friends and colleagues in the Jedi Council and just the Temple all dead. I cannot imagine having to go through that. And, I've gone through traumatic stuff in my life. I was right out of high school. I was in a car accident with my girlfriend at the time, and then we broke up after that, and it was rough. Nowhere compared to Kenobi, but I am not the same person I am now that I was then.
Yeah.
And, when you go through, I made a point about this on Twitter, when you go through a traumatic event like that, you have to rebuild who you are. And even when you get back to that point, you are not the same as you were before that event. So for him to be scared, hesitant to use anything, he pulled out his lightsaber so many times and was like trying so hard to hold off as long as he could without using it, because he knows what's going to happen when he does. It is so crucial and so important that we see him like this, because it just shows the weight of everything he's having to drag with him. He's got so much baggage right now. And now that he realizes that Anakin is still alive, there's so much more on the line, which is going to make him act now. Up until this point, he didn't know Anakin was still alive. Now he realizes this is a big, genuine threat. not only to me, but to Luke and Leia.
I think as we round out this point, because again, I for me personally, this is the hardest argument to hold, I think, because I think if you just watch the show, they do a really good job of explaining and showing why he'd be the way he is. But specifically, I want to hone in on the point that he has a bigger mission right now. His total focus is on Luke. This is the heir of his best friend. This is his, he's got to protect him at all costs. He's trying to buy him toys. He's trying to train him. He's trying to mentor him. This is his only hope, right? I'm not trying to make a pun on A New Hope, but it really is. This is his, and he views this as his most important mission. And so in the first episode, when the Jedi comes to him and is like, hey man, what used to be a great Jedi? He's like, hey, look, we lost. Okay. Yeah, they absolutely did. They absolutely got everything swept from under their feet. All complete failure. You saw some of this in Avengers. It's funny, in Avengers Endgame, a lot of the characters are feeling this exact same way because they failed defeating Thanos, right? And they feel like we totally lost, like we just got to find a way to move forward. And it had only been 3 years between the blip, or maybe 5 years. Regardless, you're talking 10 years. And it's one thing if, in the case of Thanos, an outside force comes in and overthrows your world. It's another thing if your very best friend, the person you trained and mentored, is the cause of your current predicament. I think it's not that hard at all to understand why Kenobi is the way he is. And by the end of the show, I'm sure we're going to see a completely transformed and reinvigorated Kenobi. And as we know in A New Hope, he's the Kenobi that we need and the galaxy needs. So we know how that character ends. And we'll see. Again, halfway point. We put a pencil in it for now. We put a pin in it. It's done. Let's revisit it here at the end and see if things change. Number 2, it ruined canon. It ruined A New Hope. It's broken continuity. I get this one a lot. Jimmy made a short months and months, or weeks and weeks ago, about when the first image of Vader came out. Jimmy talked about how there'd probably be a confrontation, and we got comments up until episode 3, and even some after, talking about how could they fight in A New Hope? It's the first time they've met since
Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, and Jimmy and I made a whole video where I just kind of pointed out that a lot of reasons why I think that is not true. So we have a whole 20-minute video on that. I'm not going to cover all those points here, but I will cover several other points of the continuity break. And I want to give credit to Geeky Waffle Network. I don't follow this person, but one of their tweets popped up in my feed. I absolutely liked it, and I will now have to go check out their account and see if they have more great points like this. But they provide a breakdown of all of the various maybe points of contention and provide counterpoints. So I'm going to read through it. I'm probably pulling this up on the screen to give Geeky Waffle Network some credit. But the first one was, a lot of folks have noted, when the Millennium Falcon is pulled into the Death Star, you hear Anakin Vader make the line, I sense something, a presence I haven't felt since. And that's it. That's where the line ends. He doesn't end that sentence that says, I haven't felt this in 20 years. It would obviously be 10 years, which is still a long time. So him saying, I haven't felt this since, probably factoring since the last time I confronted Kenobi 10 years ago. Doesn't change that line in any way at all. So that's the first piece. I think that one's pretty easily explained. I don't know, Jimmy. I don't think there's probably much for you to add there, but that's the first point I saw.
I mean, I guess later the confrontation on the Death Star. I don't want to be jumping the gun here if you have more to add before we get there.
Well, go ahead. I'll see if we do. Yeah.
Well, so that line too, he says, I've been waiting for you, Obi-Wan. We meet again at last. The circle is now complete. Yeah. When I left you, I was but the learner. Now I am the master. It's the key things you have to look for. It's, like when Luke said, you fought in the Clone Wars. That was a throwaway line. We have a whole show dedicated to it now. So for him to say, when I left you. Now, I've made this argument for both sides, and you could see it as, when I left you before you went to Utapau, and when I went to go hang out, I can't even remember what Anakin was doing at the time. I think pretty sure he went back to Palpatine.
Yeah,
then.
He did. Mm-hmm.
That would, because that's the last time they see each other.
As Anakin and Obi-Wan, really.
Yeah, so that, valid point. But, when I left you, so obviously in the second confrontation, because they're going to fight again. It's going to happen. That is going to be the confrontation that Vader is referring to in A New Hope. It's not breaking canon because it's so vague, it can't break canon. And if you truly believe that, I mean, that's fine. It's, like I said, this is all opinionated for all of us here. But it was a line that is so vague. It's, like Josh said, the last time we met 20 years ago. No, it's too vague that you can't just put a pin and say this is exactly the point he's talking about.
And there was a point in this thread about that. We talked about it in another video. To me, the dialogue there is pretty clear, saying when I left you. And it doesn't mean the last time we encountered each other. It's just a reference. Remember, the audience in A New Hope doesn't have all the background. So you have to put dialogue in there to explain the history of these two characters. That line, when I left you, does not fully give you the understanding that they knew each other as Padawan and Master for, all those years, sort of in the Clone Wars together, and then had confrontations in Obi-Wan. But it's intentionally just trying to make you understand this is the character's relationship. You don't know every piece of their history. You just know at one point Anakin was below Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan was the Master and Anakin was not. And the line, when I left you, to your point, Jimmy, at the end of Revenge of the Sith, there is no leaving. Obi-Wan cuts off all of his limbs and leaves Vader to cook. Okay, so that line didn't even make sense there if you want to get really technical. Regardless, to me, that line is very easily kind of addressed, and they do it later in this thread. Another one they called out was Vader tells Tarkin, a tremor in the Force. The last time I felt it, it was in the presence of my old master. Again, he says, the last time I felt it, I'm looking right here at the script. He says, the last time I felt it, I was in the presence of my old master. It doesn't say 20 years ago. It could easily be saying Kenobi. The last time I saw Kenobi 10 years ago or 9 years ago, the last time I felt it was in the presence of my old master. Tarkin says, surely he must be dead by now, meaning the Empire never had confirmation of Obi-Wan's death. And I think the way the show is going to end, this is just a personal theory, is that in the final Vader-Obi-Wan confrontation, I have a feeling Vader is going to think Obi-Wan died at the end of it, or maybe have reason to believe that Obi-Wan is no longer a threat. Because it begs the question, well, if at the end of the episode, like, Obi-Wan wins and leaves, Vader would know he's still out there and continue to hunt him, right? So I think it's natural to assume their final confrontation here ends in some sort of ship crash or something where he thinks, like, okay, well, Obi-Wan's dead, I'm going to move on with my life. And so when he makes this line, Tarkin makes the line, surely he must be dead by now. Man, I thought he was dead. We never got confirmation of his body, but it makes sense. So just another example of how the wording here in no way says they couldn't have met 10 years after Revenge of the Sith and 10 years before A New Hope. Just pretty clear.
And it's funny you mentioned that because that leads my theory brain to go into what this second fight could consist of. And maybe they're both going to end up pretty messed up by this fight. Like, physically, they're both going to be taking some hits.
Yeah.
And if anything, this just makes me more excited to see what happens next.
I'm thinking it's a crashing ship. I'm thinking some sort of crashing ship, or maybe the Tower. Well, I don't think the Tower Inquisitors is going to go down in this because it's around in Fallen Order.
And I think Fallen Order is after this.
I do too. No, it isn't. It's before because Survivor is going to take place at the same time as Kenobi. They talk about that. So anyway, regardless, it doesn't totally matter. My point is, I think that's how it's going to go down. That's just wild speculation by me. And I'm thinking that, maybe give you some context why I think that. There was concept art a long time ago of Kenobi and Vader fighting in a burning location.
Right.
And I was like, well, that's interesting because the first fight they got certainly was not in a burning location. And you might say to yourself, well, Josh, that's okay. It's concept art. The concept art they showed two other shots of the official concept art. The scythe landing in Tatooine, which was 100% in the show. And the second was of the inside of Tower Inquisitorius, the water background with the tall windows. And that was shot for shot in the last episode. So
they also had a concept of Vader sitting on the throne, and
good call.
Got that too.
Good call. And they had
so
one
we're 3
of,
for 3. We're 3 for 3.
And you know what? I forgot one too. It was Anakin in the back to tank, Vader in the back to tank, because Star Wars Theory made a whole video about that, and we saw that as well. So
4 for 4.
I'm just making a guess that we're gonna see some sort of burning confrontation. I could be wrong. We might never see them confront again, and that was the last time they ever fight before A New Hope. Regardless, easy to explain. Jimmy already addressed the line about when I left. We talked a ton. I mean, seriously, guys, we have a 20-minute video. If you really want to talk about that, give us your thoughts. If you disagree, let us know. But to me, I think it's very easy to kind of explain away. Let's see here. Oh, yes, the big one. It is when Leia makes her message to Obi-Wan. She's very
Mm.
formal, right? She says, I don't have the exact quote, but it's General Kenobi. Here we go. General Kenobi, years ago, you served my father in the Clone Wars. Now he begs you to help him in his struggle against the Empire. I regret that I am unable to present my father's request to you in person, but my ship has fallen under attack, right? I won't read the whole monologue. You guys know it. Now, first of all, Leia is being formal, right? She's a senator making her address. She's older at this point. She's not making a personal call. Hey, Ben, can you come help me? Leia knowing him and actually strengthens the reason her father gave her this job, right? The fact that they have a relationship makes sense. And I'll go one step further. Leia doesn't ask who Ben is when Luke says his name. She actually jumps when she hears it. Leia says, Ben Kenobi is here? Where is he? So it signifies they have some sort of history, right? And yes, you could argue, well, the history is that her father knew him. But it seems a little more familiar than that. And of course, it had been 10 years, right? The assumption is 10 years ago I met Ben Kenobi. We'll see how it ends here. But to me, again, easily explained. In no way, and this is the really thing I want to key in before I give Jimmy a chance. If I'm going to clip one thing, in no way does it ruin A New Hope. Can you make an argument? Well, I don't think it fits well with A New Hope. Sure. Because I can make a bunch of those same arguments with the prequel era. I'm a prequel fan. I think a lot of the things in the original trilogy don't line up perfectly with the prequel era. It's obvious George Lucas had a change of heart. And so you might not feel these fit the best, but I think it's pretty clear to me at least. There's no way do they break it, ruin it, or distort it. And my, final comment here would be something I repeat a lot. George changed Star Wars a lot as he went through. Guys, when he wrote Leia and Luke, they were not siblings. That was not his original idea. He would not have had them kiss. Okay, guys? Leia talks about remembering her mother. She is not talking about her adopted mother. She's talking about their mother because Luke asks about their mom. Okay? There are all sorts of discrepancies and changes. It's okay, right? In no way, though, do these equate to anything major. And for me, I now look at A New Hope with even more feeling and context. We've seen Alderaan. We know what it means when it's destroyed. We've seen Leia's family. We know Bail Organa. We know all this context. It's awesome. And we've seen the last time, well, we will see by the end, hopefully, the last conversation between Anakin, Vader, and Obi-Wan. And it's kind of further enhancing that bond and further driving home, to me, all those lines about how Darth Vader talks about, oh, Anakin is dead, I killed him. And Obi-Wan doesn't even refer to Vader, obviously, as Anakin. He just talks about him as an evil man and talks about Anakin as someone totally different. And this show treats Anakin as a different person. It shows you how much he's been distorted and turned to the dark side in his walk down Village Lane as he's murdering innocents. So those, to me, I think are super strong. Absolutely strong arguments on how it did not break A New Hope in any meaningful way. Jimmy, did I miss anything? Was there any context you wanted to add on any of the items I called out?
No, you hit the nail right on the head. I guess the closing thought I would say is, if you say it ruins A New Hope, like, I don't understand. You can choose to ignore that and then watch A New Hope and still enjoy it. Like, you have the ability to, pick and choose what you want to watch. I think that's one of the great things about Star Wars is that it's meant for everybody. There is something in it for everybody. Is all of it going to be for everyone? No. There are plenty of things I don't like about Star Wars, and there's plenty of things Josh doesn't like about Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, they're in space.
Well, I'm with you. Like, let us know down below. But for me, like, I love, Revenge of the Sith. And regardless of what comes out, for example, a lot of people say the sequel trilogy like made the prequel era worse because it negated Anakin's sacrifice and all that. Man, I don't care. I still love watching Revenge of the Sith when it's on TV. I'm still hyped as anyone to see them. Hayden Christensen return to acting and return as Vader for this show that we're talking about. So those feelings don't change for me. I understand if it's different for you, but just something to think about. Those characters in those moments still are there to watch and there to remember, and you don't have to change those experiences, hopefully. Okay, Jimmy. Item number 3. We're 20 minutes in, guys, so this is going to be a longer video. I appreciate if you stick around, but I think these things need to be said.
It's important.
Reva and the Grand Inquisitor, the Inquisitors in general. Let's start with the easy part. The Grand Inquisitor is dead. It breaks canon. I will make this pretty simple. We have to see the rest of the show to know if that's true, number 1. Number 2, writer Joby Harold, who's a writer on Kenobi, had this following quote this weekend saying, "As you know, we would never break canon. So that's all I'll say. Canon is everything," when asked about the Grand Inquisitor being dead. So that implies to me there's an explanation provided in the show, and we're going to get more detail. In fact, in episode 3, when Reva talks about the Grand Inquisitor, Vader straight up cuts her off and says, "I don't care about the Grand Inquisitor, let's move on." She never says he's dead. They never confirm any of that. They move right along, leaving a lot of ambiguity whether he survived. Darth Maul was cut in half, fell through a vent shaft, and was able to land on a trash planet and rebuild himself. It's not unrealistic to me to believe that the Grand Inquisitor could survive a simple stab wound. If he's dead, and they say, "Oh, that's because the Grand Inquisitor is actually a different Inquisitor, just the same species," I mean, you could explain it that way. Would be a little bit weaker one. It'd be kind of silly because why pick the same species if you're just going to kill him? But we shall see. It's very hard for me to say anything more about this one until we see 3 more episodes. What do you think, Jimmy? Any thoughts on the Grand Inquisitor's death?
And I talked with some people at work about this because they're like, "But it retcons Rebels," and I said, "You still have 3 episodes. It's not an absolute thing. Why are we?" That's the other thing. All the complaints that we're seeing. A lot of the stuff that I saw, the minor complaints were, how does Reva know that Darth Vader is Anakin? How is the Grand Inquisitor dead? How is this? You're not supposed to get all these answers in the same episodes.
Sure.
It's 6 episodes that are telling one coherent story. You have to see all of it for everything to happen. Now, after those 6 episodes, if we're not getting a season 2, and that's just it, and there's questions left unanswered, then is the time to discuss those issues.
Yeah.
But it's not breaking canon. They've been trying so hard to establish this new canon timeline. Yes, there have been a little retcons here and there, like the opening of the Bad Batch does kind of retcon the Kanan comics.
Yep. In
my personal opinion, that is a minor thing.
It is.
Whereas, killing the Grand Inquisitor, who is a main character in the first season of Rebels, that's a little bit of a bigger one. Coincidentally, they're both about the same group of people. That's kind of funny. So I just think we just have to wait and see. Like I said, if he's still dead after episode 6, I'm gonna have a lot of questions and a lot of concerns.
I mean,
we gotta get there first.
Yeah, and it might be as simple as at the end, there's no good answer. The Grand Inquisitor's dead, and I say, okay, that was weak. It was a weak story move. You could have easily picked a new villain lead. You could have easily made a new thing. Instead, you brought the Inquisitor on there to throw fans off that when you killed him, it would really surprise us because we knew he was alive in Rebels. It's a weird choice.
Like the fourth sister that we see in Kenobi, I don't think we've seen her anywhere else, have we?
No. Maybe comics? I don't know, though. I don't think so.
Because that would be an alternative kill to the Grand Inquisitor if you're really going to kill him.
That's a good point. You could have had fifth brother alive, Grand Inquisitor alive, and had fourth sister come in the room and confront her, and she stabs her, and thus it would make sense because we never see that character again. Good call, Jimmy.
As far as we know,
I might be wrong. Yeah, good call. Very good call. So anyway, very good points there. I like that. That's the Grand Inquisitor. Let's wait and see. Jimmy and I will be the first to call that out. But I will say one thing: if that's true, and there is no good answer, and it retcons the Rebels, or the writers come out and make a silly thing like, well, actually, the next Grand Inquisitor is just the same species, I will say that was weak, and it will no way, to me personally, ruin Rebels in any way. It'll just mean they had a stupid, convoluted story idea, and it really won't impact Kenobi for me either. Because guys, I gotta be honest with you, I'm a huge Rebels fan. I have a $125 giant chopper figure I'm gonna unbox here soon. I love Rebels as much as all of us. I'm not going to pretend that Grand Inquisitor is important to me in that show at all, in any way at all. They kill him in the first season, and he just felt like a plot device to me in the first season. Not saying it's excusable, just saying for me personally it won't matter.
Which I think could go better into our next topic, just about the Inquisitors in general. They're just very ineffective.
Yeah. If you've been to our stream...
This is one argument I think I'm going to agree with. The Inquisitors, with the exception of Fallen Order, the Inquisitors are just kind of... there, I guess.
They're terrible in Rebels. They're absolutely terrible. Throughout Rebels, they lose every confrontation, and they have no business losing confrontation. This is a small crew. 2 of them of the Jedi are weak, untrained Jedi at that. They're not Jedi masters in any way. They are constantly thwarted, constantly handled, and just saying the Inquisitors, to me, I absolutely love the design of the Inquisitors, but they have been completely and utterly ineffective throughout what we've seen. At least they're very ineffective at impacting major characters. Maybe minor characters they're killing
I mean,
off.
hey, the plot armor. I'll give it
Fair
to that.
enough.
The same thing with stormtroopers, plot armor, and that's one thing I'll be fine with. Every time someone's like, "Well, what about this?" I'm like, "I don't know, plot armor. Just go with it."
I wish Jimmy had made this point earlier in the show because you just said something good, which is throughout Star Wars, throughout all sci-fi, yeah, you have to kind of turn your brain off a lot of stuff. There's a lot of moments in the original trilogy that our hero should have been caught, captured, or killed. The stormtrooper aim is so bad, it's a meme they make in the show. Okay, let's not pretend that Star Wars is like, man, it's bulletproof written. Every life and death choice makes total sense, and it absolutely makes sense that our heroes are able to survive. No, it's sci-fi. It's fun. If we want to analyze every film like that, every action movie breaks down immediately. Every superhero film breaks down immediately. Why do characters have monologues? Why doesn't Palpatine just fry Luke the second he shows up? I mean, we could go hours and hours. So let's not play this game. It'll lead to us tearing down everything in every genre. Now we'll talk about Reva, and we're about 30 minutes in, Jimmy. And Reva could have her whole episode. Look, this is pretty simple to me. We're going to get this done right off the bat. We are absolutely not talking about the criticism around her, as in the racial motivated criticism, the your diversity hire, all that. We're not even talking about that because I'm not considering that valid criticism.
We've made that video.
Yeah, we made that video. That's not valid criticism. I'm not rebuting that because I'm not even entertaining that as real criticism. That's not, no. We're not going to say racist things to people. We're not going to bully people. Okay, we're not going to focus on that. We're going to focus on the character. Okay, the people who complain about her character, we'll talk about that because you're allowed to not like the character. You're absolutely not allowed to say those things.
Character complaints are valid.
Yeah, and all of us know this. And most of you Star Wars fans, we all know this. I'm not saying it's all of you guys. I'm not saying that. We made a video about that as well. But with Reva, okay, the complaint I've heard a lot here is she's ineffective. She's not scary. She looks like she's trying too hard. And this is a rare case where I guess I just am not getting the same feeling or getting the same read. And typically I'm pretty good at picking up and agreeing with the community on like, okay, I see what you might not like in this character. But for me, Reva 100% has a mysterious backstory they aren't revealing yet. We'll see what it comes to, right? We think she was the Order 66, one of the Padawans there, and she survived and is either thankful to Vader for sparing her or maybe even wants a shot at Vader. Maybe she wants to isolate him and try to, get on the inside and take him down from that point. Very Sith-esque, very Evil Jedi-esque, very revenge motivated. We'll see. So let's get that out of the way. We don't know her backstory fully. A lot of people have asked, to Jimmy's point, how did she know he's Anakin? Let's wait and see. Let's find out. Again, if the answers are bad, we'll talk about them. But for now, that's what we know. Number 2, she's trying too hard. Well, it's very clear that she has the misfit of the group syndrome, where she's trying to overcompensate and trying to make an impact any way she can. She's not respected, probably because she has a Jedi background. Maybe they don't like that, although a lot of the Inquisitors have Jedi backgrounds. But maybe there's something about hers in particular. She was a little weak Jedi.
Yeah, they all are.
Yeah,
they
I mean,
all
it's
are
fair
Jedi.
enough. Yeah, it's fair enough. I guess my point, though, is like maybe something about her being a young, weak kind of Padawan Jedi who was like dragged in last minute. They don't look at it as favorable as them, who might have more had more of a say in it. They maybe look at her as like a pity ad. I don't know. I'm not an Inquisitor. I'm just guessing. But the point here to me, she's trying too hard to prove herself. In the first episode, the other Inquisitors are like, "Oh, we'll give you some money if you give us information." No, she's not about that. She's cutting people's arms off. I love that scene. A lot of people complain about that. I'm like, are you serious? Like, in a kid show, for her to just like actually back up a threat? Yeah, as an evil character, she actually made a threat. Like, first thing I'm taking off is your hand, and they're like, "Oh, we don't have to listen to you," and whoosh, hand right off. I'm like, yeah, thank you. That's what you should do, right? Thank you. That's follow through on your threats. And the other Inquisitors are like, yo, calm down. We're not like that. We offer people money. I like her actually, being evil and not just like a grubby bully, which the other Inquisitors are kind of portrayed as. We're not really going to fight you. We're just going to, pay you for information. It might be more effective. You could argue the other Inquisitors have a more effective tactic. But I don't know. Cutting people's arms off and starting to put the fear of God in them, I think might not be a bad strategy. And so for me, I don't know. What's wrong here? The parkour scene in episode 2? Yeah, I don't like the parkour scene either. I thought it was cheesy. I thought there were some cheesy chase scenes in Book of Boba Fett too. But I don't know. Like, it doesn't ruin the character for me because there were some cheesy action scenes, number 1. And number 2, I'll talk about the other complaint. The tunnel complaint. How could she go in the tunnel and then beat Leia there? Well, let me say one thing, guys. She did not go through the tunnel. Because if she went through the tunnel, she would have confronted the Admiral, I'm forgetting her name, who was running out of the tunnel and ended up at the Vader fight. So she clearly did not go through the tunnel because they would have crossed each other. She clearly got on a speeder and went to the end of the tunnel. And people say, how did she know? Well, I don't think the tunnels went that far, number one. Number two, unless I'm misremembering, when she enters the tunnel, she's looking at that writing. She's looking at the Jedi. She's reflecting on it. I think she might have traveled these very paths years ago. Although she would have known, because she kind of knew where to go. She kind of knew where to go in that room. She kind of went right over there. So I'm guessing she might have gone through when she was younger and remembered. Although that might be a stretch. I don't think they're going to go there. But regardless, she got a ship. I think
could be a stretch, but good theory.
Yeah, I'm throwing that one out there, guys. It's not a great defense, but I have a feeling she got a speeder and flew to the edge of town because you know where? Do you know where that tunnel led to? The spaceport. They were taking Leia out. It probably wasn't very hard deductive reasoning to say, okay, I'm going to get on a speeder and go over to where a likely place it ends is. She didn't run from behind Leia and then jump in front of her. She came and met her at the end. That's my read on the situation. I also think, again, how many times in a chase scene do characters mysteriously catch up to each other, get in the way? Like, this is action sci-fi stuff 101. And we can nitpick this stuff to death, but to me, it's silly to act like, so let me get this straight. What ruined the episode for you is that a character got to end of a tunnel faster than she was supposed to. Did it really actually break anything? What if we never saw her go to the tunnel, but when Leia came to the end of the tunnel, Reva was waiting for her? No one would say boo about it. It's because they showed Reva at the front of the tunnel and then to the end that it was jarring. So agreed. It was probably a poor editing choice, 100%. But if you think about it, it really does not change the end in any major way and doesn't break Star Wars. Like, oh, well, Reva's at the end of the tunnel. Star Wars is ruined. And I'm like, guys, I don't think it's quite that big a deal. I mean, yeah, it's choppy editing. Maybe it's poorly written. But again, that's a complaint, not like a character breaking moment. So those are my feelings on Reva. I actually have liked the fact that she's the only Inquisitor who seems to actually be evil. The other Inquisitors all, and this is what does kind of humor me. People talk about her character. I feel like she isn't getting this just hours of screen time people have made it out to be. She was barely in episode 3. She made a call for Vader. She popped up in town. There was such a heavy focus on Kenobi and Vader in the last episode, though. So much time on those two that they absolutely were the main focus. I don't think Reva disrupted that in any way for me. Reva criticisms, Jimmy. What have you heard? What are your responses?
I mean, in response to the points we brought up, those are like the main ones I would think. Mm-hmm. I do agree that she's trying too hard, but I think that's because she's supposed to be. That feels like that's supposed to be her character. She's supposed to be doing this. She wants to be recognized. She wants the recognition. She's tired of being the lowest on the totem pole as far as the Inquisitors go. She wants to prove herself. That's why she's so quick to jump at everything. You know, she tried to kill that Jedi right then and there in the saloon because she's like, I need to just show that I can do this stuff. So I think that's important. As far as, how does she know who Anakin is? We'll get to that later. I can make the theory that, my personal theory right now is that she saw Anakin cutting down people in the Jedi Temple and instantly, after all the fear passed, blamed it on Kenobi because now she's in the same spot that Anakin's at. She's on the dark side. She's going to blame Kenobi for it. You trained him. You let this happen to him. As a result, I got to watch all of my friends that were like 5 years old get killed. This is your fault. This is a theory. This is speculation. This is probably not going to be right.
I heard a theory that she hated Kenobi because he put the broadcast out telling people to avoid the temple, and that meant no one came to save her and her friends.
Ooh, that's a good one.
That's kind of a fun one, right?
Yeah. See, I'm bad at these, but they're
it's
fun.
Part of the fun. I mean, we aren't writers. I mean, but we're having fun with the ideas here. But let's see what happens with Reva. I have not read the script leaks, okay? But if something happens in the end where it turns out Reva's been Darth Vader the whole time, or something crazy happens that does jar me, we'll come back and we'll criticize it. But guys, like, where we are today, you really mean to tell me Reva's like, I don't know. I found Reva was a better villain than the first half of Book of Boba Fett. Book of Boba Fett had, I don't know, Cad Bane show up at the very end, which was awesome, but he hadn't been present in the other episodes, and all we had was this mayor and some pikes, and who cares? Reva's way more engaging than them. Are you serious? Like, I don't know. To me, it's.
Yeah, you're like the Twilight guy that worked for the mayor.
Major Domo.
Major Domo. Most frustrating character ever.
Terrible. Like, people talk about that character not as much as they talk about Reva. I'm like, dude, that character was awful.
I thought he was funny.
No,
I was just like, can you just stop talking all the time, dude? It's like, well, now let me check for you.
I mean, guys, like, and I wish I would have said some of this stuff a little earlier too. And we're gonna revisit this, so I hope if you're still watching. I guess I'm a little stunned. Like Book of Boba Fett, which by the way, I made a full video criticizing. I'm not afraid of criticizing Star Wars. Book of Boba Fett to me was such a weaker show than Kenobi through the first half. Like it's galaxies ahead, and I'm hearing a fifth of the complaints about Book of Boba Fett that I'm getting about Kenobi, and I know why. Kenobi's the big thing, and people really want it to be a loss. There's some fans who there's some groups that it's in their best interest for Star Wars to be doing poorly. It gets in the most amount of views and the most amount of response. And so it's just funny to me that like Kenobi's been far better quality than a lot of the other Star Wars Disney Plus shows, and they didn't get nearly the amount of complaints. But so be it. That's my opinion on Reva. Mainly the complaints I see is that she's not scary and that she's trying too hard and that she knows Anakin. Let's see this play out, guys. Let's see it play out. But we'll revisit it. Leia. Leia is too sassy, Jimmy. She doesn't talk like a 10-year-old. She's poorly written. Let me just make a couple comments here. I want Jimmy to have the floor for a lot of this. A child actor often delivers lines in a way that are a little clunkier than an adult. They lack a lot of the nuance we do, a lot of the subtlety. They're a little more on the nose because they have to read things kind of literally to portray a lot of the emotions an adult actor could. Okay. I actually think for a child actor, she's been really darn good. She has really good chemistry with Kenobi. My favorite is as she's skipping through in episode 2 and she's like, lift me up like a Jedi. There's a Reddit thread. I wish I could find it. If I can't, I'll put it up on screen. Where the top comment was a guy saying, as someone with a 10-year-old daughter, that line was so painfully accurate to me, I can't even express it to you. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, like I have 10-year-olds can be a little goofy, a little random, a little silly. And while it might feel weird, there's a movie called Home Alone where a child protects himself from two hardened killers. Guys, come on. You know, like this to me is just, again, it's nitpicky. We're nitpicking. The heart of the Leia character has been absolutely put on display here. Leia in A New Hope, when you first meet the character, is roasting our heroes. If that character existed today, I can only tell you the thumbnails we would see about what Leia was. Leia makes fun of Luke's height. She calls him stupid. She takes charge. Like, I'm sorry.
She's even mouthing off to Vader and Tarkin.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Gets her, her planet gets lit up because she's because she's standing up to them. I'm sorry. Like, what about this Leia character am I seeing that's not accurate? I mean, a lot of the complaints I hear is, oh, they're doing it because it's got to be the strong young woman role. Guys, that's what Leia's always been. She's been the strong female character and a character we loved. Are you kidding me? You guys don't like Leia? Are you serious?
I can only imagine what Carrie Fisher would be saying right now.
Well,
it would be scary to hear what she has to say.
My thing is just, it's like, are we really pretending Leia was like the quiet background character? Leia's one of the big three. Luke, Han, and Leia. She's one of the big three of Star Wars. And so are we upset that she is a young actress being playful and sassy? And having some really good heartfelt moments with Kenobi? I don't know. This is so bizarre to me. If we saw a young Luke acting the same way, I'd be just as happy being goofy and being a 10-year-old. Like, I don't think we're not going to get that for various reasons, right? Although there is some, and we might, because there does seem to be kind of a knowledge about Luke and Ben when we see A New Hope. Regardless, my point is it's just, this one to me is a really bizarre take. I think if anything, it's been kind of cool that, like, yeah, Bail Organa, who was extremely close with Kenobi, the scenes with him and his and young Leia are phenomenal. Bail and young Leia together are absolutely phenomenal.
Oh, it's so good. Again,
to me, it's enhanced the sequel trilogy. Excuse me, the prequel trilogy. It's enhanced the original trilogy. Seeing these moments, I find it so satisfying. Yeah, were there moments in episode 3 when they're on the transport that I didn't like that segment as much. A lot of people did. I didn't like that segment as much, just because I thought it was weaker compared to the rest of the episode. But regardless, I'm not going to pretend that the character is, again, somehow ruined or somehow corrupted or somehow changed. It's so on brand for Leia, or Padme for that matter. Like, I don't know. I watched Clone Wars. I watched Rebels. Leia was in Rebels being really sassy. Padme was in Clone Wars being super. The idea that, like, oh no, that's not what they were like. I just think it's just inaccurate. I don't know, Jimmy. Leia.
I mean, here's the thing, and I want to look this up because I want to be sure. Yeah, so I'll bring up that point here in a second. One thing I do love, the actress, her name is Vivian, playing Leia, is so just perfect in the role. The way she presents herself and the way she like talks and the way she's just capable of learning this and acting this out, it reminds me so much of Emma Watson when The Sorcerer's Stone came out.
Interesting.
Because in recent years I've gone back and I've like I wanted to find some interviews of Rupert, Emma, and Daniel when they were young, and I saw this. I think it was the Today Show. It was an interview with Emma Watson. She was like 11 or 12. Spoke better than people I know today. Just so, prim, proper, articulate, very. Did not. She talked well beyond her age, and it was shocking.
Yep.
But it was impressive. That's not unheard of. So everyone's like, what 10-year-old do you know that talks like this? Well, look, for starters, Leia was brought to a very prestigious society on Alderaan.
Yep.
She was literally taken in by the queen of the planet and the senator in the Galactic Senate.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
She was trained from that young age that she is going to be a senator. She's going to go to school to be a senator. She's going to go on all these missions and work through stuff. And all
diplomatic missions, yep.
As a senator. Read the book Leia, Princess of Alderaan by Claudia Gray. She is much older in that book, but it's the same thing. She has to learn all this manner and etiquette. She even has like a droids that like teach her that stuff. She's supposed to act like this.
Yeah.
So everyone complaining about her telling off her cousin, when has she never told anyone off? This is just perfectly her. She is supposed to be this, and it's great because it's the polar opposite of what Luke is. Luke's out on a farm. Dude, aunt and uncle, they're not very...
They're farmers.
They're farmers. They're not very wealthy people. They don't have the typical prim, proper, higher establishment
of a senator
manners. Yeah. They're supposed to be complete polar opposites.
Yep.
We've seen how Luke acts. And even in that little clip we saw in Kenobi of him like climbing up on the side of the house and pretending to be in a pod racer.
Yep.
The thing I was looking up, her mom is Padme Amidala. She became Queen of Naboo at 14. We're not going to question that.
That's a great point, Jimmy. That's a great point.
She is the daughter of a queen, the adopted daughter of a queen.
That's a great point.
Becomes a senator, and she was going to be the person that the planet looked to eventually. She has to act like this. She has to be able to not take crap from anybody because she is there. She is large and in charge. And that's how I see it. The first thing, literally, I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you. And she's like, oh, sure thing. She's like, I'm saved. Yippee.
Yeah.
It's just perfect.
And the roasting her cousin thing, all I'll kind of comment on there is like, the core of that argument is like, you should be nice to droids. And it sounds like, I don't know. Like the idea is they're demonstrating that Leia is a little more caring about the folks of her kingdom than maybe this cousin from the more maybe spoiled part of the family. Because the idea is that when you grow up in bureaucracy, you don't have the same maybe compassion that you should. And
to that point, that whole scene is a learning experience because afterwards she's in trouble. Mm-hmm. Bail is telling her, like, I know your cousin is rude. You have to rise above that. You have to try to be better. You're going to be a senator. You can't be acting sloppy.
Yeah. So,
that's the whole point.
Understood. I don't know. Leia to me has been fine, but I'm open to hear your guys' thoughts down below. The final one is definitely the one I hear the least about, or I've seen the least about, which is the fight, which is at the. And
I'm hearing nothing but this one.
I will talk about the one area that I have heard some criticism on, and then I'll let Jimmy kind of take over where I may have not heard some things. I'm specifically talking about the Vader versus Obi-Wan. I'm calling it round one because I think they're going to confront again. I thought this fight was absolutely phenomenal. I thought it had such good visual storytelling leading up to it. I think all the things that happened make total sense. Obi-Wan's out of practice, just defending himself for his life, trying to distract Vader from Leia. He knows what Leia would mean to Vader. He wants to make it very, very, very hard for them to cross paths, right? He wants to do everything he can to make sure that they do not end up in contact, which will be a challenge because it ends with Leia being caught by Reva, and if Reva brings her to Vader, so we'll see what they do in episode 4. But at this point, what we know, the fight itself, him trying to distract Vader is fantastic. Vader's like Jason Voorhees out there, a tank, running up and just bludgeoning Kenobi down, overwhelming him with the Force, eventually setting things on fire and dragging him through the flames. And I've heard two criticisms here. Number one, that the beard of Kenobi was not singed up and he should have been burned more than he showed. We'll see. The next episode he's going to get healing. I think they showed his arm being pretty burned.
His arm was pretty messed up.
So we'll see what they do there. Yes, his hair might have remained pristine. It's Hollywood, guys. I don't know what to tell you. There's a lot of action stars who should look a lot worse than they do. John Wick is not realistic at all, but we love it. And the other piece is Obi-Wan's escape. Let me make this totally clear. I think the execution of Obi-Wan's escape is poor because it's just kind of shot in a way where the droid kind of comes out and like picks him up. I'm like, oh my gosh. But the intent is clear. Vader's letting him go. Vader's not bothered by it, it appears. Maybe we'll see in the next episode that I'm wrong, but Vader doesn't seem bothered by it. He seems comfortable letting him go. My personal theory on this in this week's stream was that this is Vader's purpose. Vader likes having someone to hunt. He likes having Kenobi out there to torture and haunt, because what else has he had to do in the galaxy? He's hunted most of the Jedi down. There's no threat for him. There's no challenge. There's no family he loves left. There's nothing but serving Palpatine. And the one item that probably elicits the most emotion, the most purpose in him, is killing Kenobi. So I think it's a lot of sense that he would keep him alive. And I thought the fight was actually fantastic. What about you, Jimmy? What have you seen about the fight? What went wrong? What are people complaining about?
I mean, from what I've seen, it's just people that are thinking that this is supposed to be a prequel style fight. And it's not. And it goes back to our very first point, He's 10 years out of practice. I don't care who you are or what profession you're in. Take one person out of that for 10 years, like no, access to it at all.
Yep.
Come back 10 years later, they are not going to be as pristine as they were the day they stopped.
Yep.
They're going to have flaws. It's going to be slow. Now, because he's done it for so long that with some practice, he could probably get back up to speed fairly quickly. I will agree with that point. But, that's 10 years that he's got to make up for. This fight was exactly what it was supposed to be. Because Kenobi's not fighting him. Kenobi is trying to hold on for dear life. This is pure, I need to not die right now.
Yep.
I just need to get out of this fight. I need to defend myself. Whereas Vader is using the Force and physical force to just beat down Kenobi. It's just pure hatred. He is trying to overpower him. That's all this is. And it's classic Vader fashion of fighting with just one hand. Yep. Like he did with Luke.
I'll read this line that I really liked. I read it on stream last week. I'll put it up here. It is from, I saw this on Twitter, by Jediah Applegist. I still don't know what this name is supposed to mean, but regardless, it says, Obi-Wan just running when he sees Vader, and Vader not being able to run after him is so funny. It also makes sense because Vader's physical capabilities have diminished to the point where he can't even run. He just has to walk. He's not fast. He's a tank. He fights like one too. He hammers at Obi-Wan with his lightsaber. Instead of doing any cool prequel level acrobatics or moves, it's just one-handed. He uses the Force to knock things over and drag people around. He uses the Force to overpower Obi-Wan. He's basically a husk of a man being kept alive by his suit and the dark side of the Force. The show displayed that perfectly, and I think it did.
And yeah, and just because you mentioned it, you said his name. If it's what I'm thinking it is, Jedi is actually in Legends the original name for the Jedi about 23,000 years before the events of the Phantom Menace. Before Jedi and Sith, they were all one under the Jedi Order. So there's your fun fact for the day. Check out Dawn of the Jedi.
There you go.
Great book. But so yeah, the fight happens. It is Obi-Wan's just trying to hold on for dear life. That's all this is. He's got the lightsaber in his hand. He doesn't want to do it. For starters, he is now terrified. He's like, oh my, I did that to you? Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now the escape part. And I heard a couple arguments about this even at work today. He lights the crystals on fire, whatever that was, drags him through it, uses the Force, blows it out, and throws him back. And he says, bring him to me. I'm gonna go with him now. And then we have Tala come in, snipe the stormtrooper, and then snipe the other canister and light the ground on fire again to where Ned B comes and gets Kenobi.
Yeah.
Why doesn't he just blow out the fire and pull him back again? That's not what he's trying to go for. Vader is one of those people, no matter how evil he is still kind of like noble in his fighting style of like he knows when to stop, which is weird. But we see that a lot even in like the fight in Empire. Like that fight is so broken up. But he's like, okay, this is a good point to stop because now, one, Kenobi's not at his full. If I'm gonna beat him, I want him to be at full power. I don't want this. I don't want to cheap out this fight. Two, he knows I'm alive. He is now scared of me. I want him to have that fear. I want him to go through exactly what I did. This is pure manipulation. This is emotional and mentally destroying him. This is what Vader wants.
Oh, I
also
totally agree with that point.
He obviously has people on his side. Someone came and rescued Kenobi, picked him up and ran off, and a sniper took out one of my stormtroopers. If I let them live, I can see where they're taking him, and Kenobi can lead me to this bigger rebel presence.
Mm-hmm. I like that point a lot too.
Those are my thoughts.
I like that point too. And I think, the easiest summary for me is, Jimmy pointed out some really good, deeper reasons, and I totally agree. And I really like the idea that simple. He let him go, not because he likes him or loves him. He wants to keep hunting, man. This is getting good, and a lot of villains do this. It's a very common villain trope. Like, no, I'm gonna take him down. I'm gonna do it my way. I'm not gonna be impulsive. There's a lot of movies and shows that be ended really quick because the villain just killed the hero. There's a lot of them. It's part of the things villains do: overconfident, overconsumed with evil and rage. And I thought the fight was fantastic, man. I don't care. I love the fight. Thought it was great.
The fight was stressful. Like, even though we know what the outcome is, but even then, like, we don't know if someone's going to get hurt, if someone's, it's stressful. I was not expecting him to light Kenobi on fire.
It was a great scene, man.
I think it's very poetic. It's supposed to be that way.
It was a great scene. I like it.
And also, this is the last thing I'll say, it is so on brand for Vader to just stand there after witnessing, like, a loss, with the Falcon getting away after the hyperdrive was supposed to be deactivated in Empire, and stuff like that. He just kind of stares for a minute and then turns and walks away. He doesn't sit there. He's not,
he doesn't pull a
causing
Kylo.
a scene. He's just, okay. And turns and walks off. He's like, time to reevaluate this and plan my next move.
And usually he kills someone after that as well.
That too. I was really expecting like a stormtrooper to make some comment and just get sliced right there.
I did too. I kind of thought they would do that as well. What I was going to say is we're at the halfway point, right? 3 episodes left. Our perception might change. Our reality might change. I certainly hope there's another confrontation in our future. But, guys, I think this is my defense of Kenobi. This is Jimmy and I's defense of the most common complaints. You might have different ones. We've heard different other ones. Our buddy Ben on the weekly show, he has frequent feedback on Kenobi. Still our friend. We still hang out with him. We still talk with him. You're allowed to not like things we don't. But I wanted to make kind of a defense of why I liked it and why I think that maybe some of these common complaints that there might be good responses to. So I hope if you watch this long, first of all, if you watch this long, put a comment down below that says, Josh, you're the best. And I'll know you made it this far. And I really appreciate those who did stick around or watch various points we had. I hope you found it helpful. And if you have disagreement, let us know down below.
And here's the thing, with this disagreements and all that, like we said, it's fine if you disagree with us. The whole point of this is to see what the complaints are, see if we can deconstruct them, and then have a conversation with you guys. We don't want this to get, gross and nasty. We're not trying to call each other names. We don't want to fight in the comments. We just want to have civil discussion. And we're not trying to say you're stupid for liking this or you're stupid for not liking this. And we would hope that you guys could give us that same treatment for just wanting to have this discussion.
Yep. And if you come in and mean, I'll link this end section of the video, and you can have to watch Jimmy say that whole little reminder there.
Be nice because I said so.
That's it.
I don't make the rules, but that is the law.
That's it. And thank you guys for being here, though. Stopping by. Kenobi is coming down to the last 3 episodes. Make sure you guys are tuned in the channel for us to discuss what happens next. It's been a fun ride. We have more Star Wars on the way. Of course, we have Andor coming in August as well. We have the Bad Batch coming in September. We have Tale of the Jedi as well. So this is just the beginning of our Star Wars-filled year. So make sure you guys stay locked in on the channel. Thanks so much for stopping by. We'll see you again very soon.